Right. This short video will introduce you to the study features in this web-based study lenses, specifically ones that will be helpful for predictive stepping, but we will touch on the others as well. So predictive stepping is when you go through a program one step at a time using a visualization tool like Python Tutor or the browser's debugger or the trace log, and you try to predict what will happen before looking at the answer for the next step. Very simple. It's a very good way, though, to understand what's happening inside of programs and to learn how to understand code and the language that you're studying, JavaScript in this case. Before you dive straight into that, I recommend these games. They're fun, and they're very good at learning for helping you learn how to read code. Here's this video that I'm recording right now. Here's a guide to the files in this folder, so these three. This is a longer, more technical video, but it does break down in detail how to use the browser's debugger, and it goes through the instructions in all three of these files. Finally, here's a longer class recording of predictive stepping once using these examples in a different repository. So let's go to the example we're going to study now, which is one of these. So we can open and close folders. And here I'll choose integrate, which means it has user input and output, as opposed to the isolate, which we'll see in a second. So the user input and output programs, wherever they are, these JavaScript files, we can just click on them, they'll open. I can now collapse the sidebar. Side note, there is a sandbox. You can just write whatever you like in here. It has all the study features we're going to see. And I will clear that out. So we have our program. We can open our dev tools by right-clicking inspect. We'll go to the console. We can clear out extra warnings, extra logs, and I'll just go right to left or left to right with these buttons. The first one will just run the code, QWERTY. No special visualizations, no logging, nothing special. The debug will open our code in the browser's debugger, where we can step through and predict what's happening. I'm not going to go into detail on this. There's videos on that predictive stepping page I shared. So that is the debug button. It just adds these debugger statements and opens your code in the DevTools. There's also the trace log button. Oh, get out of there. And this one will print a log to the console of what happened line by line in the program as it executed. We'll have to fix that sound. And how you might read it out loud. So on line 3, we called prompt and the user input QWERTY. On line 3, we also declared and initialized let with the value QWERTY from our user. On line 5, we declared the variable message using let. On line 6, we read the value out of QWERTY, which was out of input, which was QWERTY. The next variable access was on line 8, where we again read QWERTY out of input, and on and on. So that's a trace log. It will print this to the console. And whatever code you write in this editor, as you change the code, it will always print what you've written. There's this button, trace table, too, where you can practice predicting what will happen. So if I'm comfortable, I might start guessing that we'll start on line 3 with a variable input that we will declare and initialize to whatever I input. Let's say that I'm actually going to type in QWERTY again, so let's predict QWERTY. The next thing will be line 5, where message will be declared but not initialized. So we can just call that undefined. The next will be line 6, where we will work with the variable input to read the value, which was QWERTY. On and on. And then you can check your work by clicking trace log. And what's printed in the console, the lines here, are meant to line up with the trace table. So you can line by line check your work to see if your guesses were correct. There's also this button that will just generate study questions. Whatever code you write, it will analyze and produce custom questions, some more custom than others, but all of them will relate to your code. Sometimes there are more detailed multiple choice questions. Okay. Finally, step through, we'll see that in a minute because that only works when you don't have prompt alert and confirm. Then you have these different drop-down lenses that you can select to study the text of the program in different ways. You can just highlight the variables, the different ways they're used. You can highlight the code, draw on it. This is great for discussion. We can also open the highlight. And here you choose what you want to study. So let's say I just want to study variables. And I don't want it to be that hard. Then I have to drop down and choose which variable belongs in each spot. And I can check my work. So on and on. These are all ways of studying a program without running it. I encourage you to look into all of these. And then we can close that, come back to our file tree, where we'll find these isolate programs. These are the ones that we can use for step through. Step through will open your code, normally in Python Tutor, which is a very good tool also for predictive stepping that is hosted outside of Study Lenses, but we have that little shortcut to get there. All right. So that was a very quick tour of the main study features here for JavaScript programs, and especially looking at the ones related to tracing and predicting.